Welcome to Christian Warrior Training. My name is Keith. In this episode, we're going to talk about some signals that the government sent us to let us know that an attack is impending and that we're about to have some troubles in America. And I'm going to talk about that, how to interpret what they say, because they don't just come out and say it, right? I worked in government for 30 years. I'll interpret for you. And then we're going to move into what you can do to secure your church right now, the little things that you can do right now to make your church a little bit safer, because you are in a little bit of danger. I'm not trying to create paranoia, not trying to make you freak out, but I do want you to take care of yourselves. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Keith. I am a 30-year retired law enforcement veteran. I was a SWAT team leader. I worked narcotics for many years. I am California's Narcotics Officer of the Year a while ago. So I've been around the block. I'm now transitioning those skills to church security and keeping our churches safe. I have free training for church security teams. It's not a gimmick. It's my gift to my fellow followers of Christ. Go to courses.christianwarriortraining.com. You can catch my newsletter. I put out training every single week. www.christianwarriortraining.com. Put the W's in front. I'm doing this on a budget, okay? When I can afford somebody, I'm going to pay somebody to fix it to where if you just put in christianwarriortraining.com, it takes you to a blank page. Put the W's in front of it, you'll go to the right place. I'll put the link in the description below. If you want to support what I'm doing, a paid subscription for Christian Warrior Training will go a long ways. If you can't afford it, don't do it. All right. Let's get into what the FBI director had to say at a speech to the Senate, and I'm gonna interpret what he says. So during an interview, he says there is a possibility, which means it's going to happen. They don't talk about possibilities. There's a possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization might exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks in the U.S. He's coming out and telling you that so he can say, "Oh, we let the public know." Right? It's going to happen. You can see my other video where I talk about intelligence that we have had for decades, that this is going to be an issue. I was one of the first people to put that information out because I've known since 2002 that that was an issue. All right. He also said Iran and non-state actors are identified as cyber threats, with the risk of cyber attacks on American interests and critical infrastructure likely to worsen if the conflict expands. Now, look, the conflict is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. You can see, we go back to messaging. I'm only going to talk about what the FBI says. There's a whole bunch of other messaging the government's putting out that if you read between the lines and you've worked in government, you know they're warning you that we are going to have a conflict with Iran coming up. When that happens, if I was a bad man, I would do a cyber attack followed up with these active shooter incidents that I talked about in my other video when I talked about Hezbollah in the United States and what's going to happen with that with sleeper cells. I kind of covered all of that. I would do that at the same time. The FBI director also said the threat of kinetic attacks is also expected to increase if the conflict expands. Kinetic means shooting, which means there is going to be shooting in the United States. Again, it goes back to what we have always known, that Hezbollah and Hamas have always planned on doing active shooter incidents within the United States. And it's not just going to be one active shooter. It's going to be multiple active shooters, either in multiple different cities at the same time, but more than likely it's going to be multiple active shooters, different places in the same city to overwhelm law enforcement, get a higher kill count, and then move on to somewhere else. And the last thing, that kind of the big thing that I picked up in his speech, was multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West, with Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Hezbollah specifically named as issuers of those threats. They hate us. They're going to come after you. And for you that are Christians that are following this, they don't like Christians. So a big target is going to be our churches. They're going to come after our churches. I would fully expect that there are going to be some active shooter incidents at those churches. I am praying that it's somebody that if it's going to happen in a church, it's a church that's well prepared, people that have been training for active shooter incidents, and they're able to repel the attack immediately. There are a lot of churches, a majority of churches, that are unprepared. What can you do right now to protect your church immediately, like before Sunday? What can you do to protect your church? The biggest thing right now is securing your entry points. If I would have only one door open, have that monitored by a security guard, and then I would keep all the other entrances locked. There are lots of churches with multiple entrances. Like we're talking like 10 in one building or 6 buildings, and all of them are open. And the problem with that is they're not all monitored. So somebody's going to come in with a bunch of long guns through one entrance where nobody's going to see them, and then come through and start killing everybody in the church. You want to make sure that, as an example, let me back up. real quick, there was an incident, I think it was Memphis, where a guy came to a Jewish school to go shoot it up. And this is very recently, like the last few months. He tried to enter the doors, but the doors were all locked. Even though the building was occupied, the doors didn't need to be open anymore. And so since the doors didn't need to be open anymore, they locked everything. The guy could not get in to the building. He gave up, left. They called 911. Cops saw him, got in a shootout with him. They killed him. Great story. Great way for it to end. All handled because somebody decided to lock doors, which is what you're supposed to do. Go back to Uvalde, Texas, where the police didn't do anything when they were supposed to. That all started because the guy was running from the cops, saw an open door, went into it, killed the kids. It was opportunity, right? Keep those doors locked and closed. Your parking lot area, all this stuff is going to start in the parking lot. They get there by parking in the parking lot, by training your parking lot attendants, your ushers, and everybody else to know what to look for, and then moving your security people outside. I know it's cold. I'm in Idaho. It's really cold when you're standing outside, but that's where you need to be, not on the inside. The problem's going to happen outside. Stand outside the door. You have a better view of what's going on. You see everybody coming in, and then you can take care of business from there. You need to make sure you train everybody. Training can start right now. Go to courses.christianwarriortraining.com. I have courses up right now that your people can take to get training, get a certificate, and they will be ready to go, right? So train your greeters, your ushers, the safety team on how to respond to suspicious activity. I have all of that over at free training at courses.christianwarrior.com. Go over there right now. Go take it. I have that newsletter I send out every week with free information, and it's always timely. Go subscribe to that. Get that information. You'll be good to go. You also need to conduct regular drills. When everybody's in service, take that time to take your people to run them through some drills and practice. You know, it doesn't have to be guns out, using blue guns or anything like that. You can just be walking through it, like table talk or whatever. Just walk through it. You want to make sure you have physical security measures. Get up and install surveillance cameras and alarm systems. There are churches with no alarms. I don't understand that. Okay. You also need to make, but that the surveillance, you need to make sure that you have surveillance outside and inside, and then have somebody monitoring those cameras, because you can see the entire church in one place. You want to do a security assessment. Now, you're going to go through your entire area to look to see what do I need to do to change it. Now, I'm creating a security assessment form that I'm going to put up on www.christianwarriortraining.com. It's going to be a checklist you can download and just start going through everything so you can make sure you have everything in place. As an example, in your security assessment, you have bollards in front of all the entrances to keep vehicles from ramming into your lobby and running everybody over. Most churches don't, because they feel that it stops the openness of their church, which I understand. But if I was going to attack your church, I'm going to take a little car, drive right through those big doors, and then drive through the lobby, run everybody over, back up over them, and then come out shooting. You have to address that. Communication. You want to establish a clear communication system to alert the congregation. It could be simple, like you've talked to your pastor and he gives directions from the PA system that he's using to already address the church. On a side note, a lot of you people are, at the same time, you're sending out on social media your service, which is awesome. You need to talk to your online ministry that if something were to happen, they cut that immediately, because that is intelligence that the bad guys are using. So cut that system right there so that it's not being broadcast over the internet about what's happening inside. Bad guys are going to use that actively to plan their attacks and use their attacks. Still have the online ministry, still broadcast your service. People need to hear your message. But if it pops off in your church, train those people to pull the cord and make that stop. And you got to remember, Christians are being persecuted all over the world. We are lucky in the United States, basically in North America, we are very lucky that we're not being killed for our beliefs, because they are everywhere else. And it may be coming here very shortly to us. You need to have an emergency response plan. What is that emergency response plan? My church has an emergency response plan, and we practice it every year. The big thing is like evacuations. We just practice evacuations. Do we evacuate, or do we hold people in place? If we evacuate, where do we go? How do we do it? Start working on that right now. Another easy one, collaborate with local law enforcement. Go call your local police department. Go talk to the watch commander. Go talk to the patrol bureau commander or the investigations bureau commander. Talk to the chief, depending on how big your area is, and get that relationship going and start talking to them. You need to have medical preparedness, meaning you got to have some kind of a medical kit ready to go. So my church, we have a great big red backpack filled with tourniquets, Israeli bandages, chest seals, splints, you name it. It's hanging up right in the middle where everybody can see it. And we practice an active shooter scenario. One person grabs it and then they move out. On our medical team, we have all of our doctors, our nurses, all those people with medical experience, and they all have pagers. And they are all incorporated into our active shooter plan. We've all been practicing. So we're all good to go if something were to happen. Lastly, you need to have some kind of a cybersecurity plan. All right. I would worry about them hacking you, but you're not like the number one target in the United States. The big thing is most of you need to clean up your website. You have floor plans of your church online for people to see. Stop doing that. Take that down. You've given them a floor plan to plan, attack, and to roll through and kill your people. It tells you how to get to the Sunday school and kill the children. It tells you where to go to the sanctuary so another guy can go to the sanctuary and kill everybody in the sanctuary. You need to stop that immediately, and you need to clean that up and get that off. Okay. I appreciate all the new followers that we have. Do me a favor, sign up for Christian Warrior Training newsletter. I'm going to put a link down below. Click the link. It'll be much easier to do that. The training, the newsletter, everything is always free. But if you want to support what I'm doing, only if you can afford it. If you have extra money, if you don't worry about it. I got it. But if you have a little extra money, I could use some help on the website to fix some things. Just go ahead and do the yearly subscription. I take that money and put it right back into Christian Warrior Training to do free training, to buy cameras, sound equipment, to pay for the service of the platform that everything's on. It does help out a little bit, but if you don't have the money, don't worry about it. If you don't have the money, do me a favor, pray for me. Pray for Christian Warrior Training that we reach as many church safety teams as possible. Lastly, I'm not trying to make you scared. I'm trying to make you aware. Ultimately, we know it's in God's hands and it's God's plan. We know it's written in scripture. We know exactly what's happening. I'm not afraid of dying. I know where I'm going. In fact, I hope it happens sooner rather than later, because I would rather get to the kingdom and be done with this mess that's down here. All right. Do me a favor. Leave me some notes in the chat. I love reading your chat. It always makes me happy. Let me know what's going on. That's all I've got for now. Remember your ABCs. Always be caring.